Thank you for tuning in to High on Horror. I'm Drew.
And I'm John. This episode and every future episode is dedicated to the horror hounds and smokers out there who want to expand their knowledge of the genre and have a good time.
Today we're going to review the Australian horror film Sissy. It's the latest in Psycho Bitch films. We can't wait to talk about it. It's now streaming on Shudder, so stop everything that you're doing and go watch it after you listen to this episode. We have with us the writers and directors Kane Senes and Hannah Barlow. They're going to spill their guts to us in an exclusive interview. All that and more today on High on Horror. Interviews, reviews, and the latest news all rolled into one. Now it's time for Strain Wreck, the segment of our show where John and I discuss which strain we're getting wrecked on in each episode.
I got, you just watched me open this. So.
Well, I was going to say, this is our second episode of the year. We have to do this upright. We have to start this episode off right. So, what are we smoking today? You were struggling over there opening that shit.
Yeah, some of these packages are ridiculous. But I bought this when I went Christmas Eve for myself. Treat yourself. I got some sugar cane. You just saw it. Usually we try it before we're on air, but I just opened this and I have it packed up. But
that seems like that would have been a good one to use for Christmas. Didn't you get that around Christmas? I'm surprised you didn't.
I got it Christmas Eve.
I'm surprised you didn't tap into this. This is like what I feel like this is what you should have been hitting with your hot chocolate.
Well, I had like
oh my god
the vapes I had.
That's to the you listeners out there. Hold on a second, John. I'm sorry to cut you off, but to the people listening to this, the smell of this bag. It makes me want to eat this sweet. It makes me want to eat it.
Well, we got a ball packed of it here, but yeah.
Get yourself some sugar cane. God damn.
Yeah, but the vapes I had like sugar cookies and stuff. So
I remember that.
I covered the Christmas.
I remember the sugar cookie vape.
But this is 20% THC. It's a hybrid weed between a genetic cross between platinum and I've never heard of this one, slurricane.
No, I never heard of that either. We're going to have to get some of that slurricane up on here.
It says it's an ideal choice for beginners and experienced cannabis consumers, whatever the fuck that means.
Beginners and experienced, okay. Takes you on that journey.
I don't know why it would be good for both, but whatever. It seems like a lot of THC for you if you're just starting out. The flavors and aroma are grape. The top effect is energetic. Its effects include, like I said, energetic, focused, and uplifted. Medical marijuana patients often choose it when dealing with symptoms associated with anxiety, depression, and stress.
That'll help me.
Bred by House Genetics, sugarcane features flavors like grape, sweet, and floral.
Yeah, I smelled that grape. That was that sweet smell that I smelled, man. It smelled sweet.
This is a new one. They never usually tell us what the average prices are of it. That's interesting.
Oh, okay. What do they got? What are the average prices for our listeners out there in case they want to pick up some sugar cane?
Typically range between $30 and $60, but it doesn't say for what. I'm guessing that's
a gram.
I don't know if 60 for a gram. That's be a lot.
I guess wouldn't it all depend on who the website's aimed at though? Like if that's like a website for like Colorado. Maybe that's the Colorado prices. You know what I mean? Maybe like if it were over here, it'd be more expensive. I don't know, but I could see $30 a gram, but 60 is a little high.
Yeah, that's a little bit much.
Okay, so you said you got that loaded up. So while you take the first hit of that, I'm jealous. I wanted to bring up to you. Lots happened kind of in the last week. Only so much we can catch up on. But the main one that we need to talk about first is the Evil Dead Rise trailer. This movie looks dark as hell and brutal, and there's no humor. It's dead serious. Going back to the original and what the 2013 remake did, this is my most anticipated film of this year of 2023. Its release date is April 21st. And if you watch both the Red Band trailer and the theatrical trailer, the non-Red Band, you'll see different footage. There's different footage in both, and it's I think it's good to watch them both, but I'm not going to go beyond that. I'm not going to watch 4, 5, 6 trailers from now. What I saw was enough to sell me. John, did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it. I had seen the day before when Bruce was hyping it up, and they showed like a little 20-second
teaser. Yeah.
And then I forgot about it the next day. Actually, but my coworker reminded me, and I checked it out, and I didn't have any expectations going into the trailer.
Same.
I'm interested. It looks good.
Yeah.
It looked really good.
It reminds me a lot of Demons 2, how it takes place like in an apartment complex. So that's a pretty cool concept for Evil Dead. Director Lee Cronin in Empire magazine, he said that the trailer is just a little taste of the grind, and I think that's what we can expect, right? I mean, we know we didn't get what we're gonna see in that movie, in that trailer. We know it's gonna get worse than that.
Yeah, and like you said about not watching other trailers, I'm kind of afraid to watch I'm obviously they're going to put out more trailers, but
Yeah.
I feel like I wouldn't want to watch those trailers. I feel like I got enough from that one that I'm good enough I want to go see it. Only a little bit right before my birthday, so I'll definitely be checking that out.
Oh yeah, we'll be fried in that theater checking
sure.
it out. While I was talking about Lee Cronin, I wanted to also bring up that to listeners out there who are unfamiliar with him, like I am. I don't know if John's familiar with him or not. Lee Cronin is from Dublin, Ireland, who won awards for his work as a writer and director. He hasn't done much. He's mostly known for his film The Hole in the Ground from 2019. I have not seen it, and if I did, I can't remember it. Did you see it, John?
I have not.
If I have seen it, I don't remember it, so that means I probably didn't like it if I did see it. Yeah, so that's a little background on the director of the film. Also, the lead, the mother, in the trailer in Evil Dead Rise is played by Alyssa Sutherland, and I knew her. I recognized her from the show Vikings, and I immediately recognized her, and god damn, she looks fantastic with red hair until she becomes a Deadite.
Yeah, that's... I feel like we're getting a little bit different story with Evil Dead instead of just rehashing the whole same cabin with a group of teens concept.
I liked how the Necronomicon had teeth and like locks.
Yeah,
I thought that shit was fucking cool. Like the Necronomicon
and the pages
cool.
looked really good.
Yeah, and like the cover kind of looked like a veiny cock. It didn't have a face on it. It was just veiny.
I didn't pay that much attention, I guess, to the cover.
Anyway, in other news, one of my favorite creepy doll movies, creepy
you got
puppet
me to watch
movies,
that one.
Yeah, is James Wan's Dead Silence, and it's been announced by Scream Factory that Dead Silence is getting the 4K treatment on March 28th of this year. I am fucking buying that. Did you see the cover art for that shit?
I have not. I didn't even know it was getting a 4K, and I was sitting here debating, would I get it? I probably won't be getting it.
Oh, really? You didn't like it enough?
I liked it well enough. I don't dislike it. I think it's a good movie. It's just not one that I'm like, oh, I gotta have that.
Well, I remember.
But my collection is nowhere near yours, so I feel like there's a lot of movies at this point that I would maybe go, I don't need that. Whereas you're like, oh, well, I got all the rest of that. I want that.
I feel you. No, well, the two things. One, the thing that I dislike about the Scream Factory releases, they're doing the whole thing where, to me, it really is. There's the only company that really does it, and it's really just a cash grab because they know that their customers are collectors, and they're doing this thing where if you order it directly from their website, you get this special cover art, and you only get this cover art. Here, check it out. I'll show you. Right, that's awesome. Right, it's done by Devin Whitehead. Their Scream Factory's like, so order it from our website and get the deluxe edition. But to get the deluxe edition, you get the movie on 4K with the basic slipcover, which is like the cover of the film with the finger over the doll's mouth, like and a poster of that. And then you get a poster of the alternate artwork that I just showed you and the slipcover for that. Like, why do you need to throw in like two slipcovers? Like, that's just such a cash grab. Like, how about just make the special bundle one, the one that has the special slip? Why do you need to include? What are you going to do with the other slipcover? Like, what is the point of that? It's just a cash grab for people who collect slipcovers, and that bothers me a little bit. Is that just me because I'm a collector, or do you think that's ridiculous?
Yeah, I mean, but I don't really collect on the level you collect. I have my little collection of 4K Blu-rays. Before that, I used to have a lot of DVDs, and then I just went hardcore streaming.
But I'm asking though, if you bought this edition, if you were like, fuck it, if you did like the movie enough to buy it, and you said, fuck it, I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to order that, not talking about the posters. Posters are a different thing. What would you do? What would anybody do when they get a second slipcover? You're going to pick the one you want, and then the other one's going to fucking go in a drawer somewhere.
Where would you even like store it?
That's what I'm saying. It's yeah, but yeah. So that's a little weird to me. So I'm just going to order mine off of like from Diabolic or somewhere, and just get the basic cover. I'm not going to pay extra money just for that extra slipcover. But I remember clear as day, the other thing I wanted to talk about was I had like the biggest payday of my life at that point when the movie came out on DVD and Blockbuster was still around. I remember I was working, I was doing carpet, and I got with tip and my paycheck included. A customer was like loaded, and they gave us a tip. I brought home like $1,100 in cash, and I was fucking hype. It was the most money I'd ever had, and I went into Blockbuster. And I just bought so many movies. I remember I bought Saving Silverman. We were just talking about that. I remember.
I just watched that last week with Nicole.
I fucking love that movie. Yeah, I remember I was just like loading up, and I remember my dad was pissed because like you make that much money, and your first goal is you want to just buy a bunch of movies with it. You don't want to buy a car, And well, anyway, so I'm like loading up on movies, and I was like, no, I saw Dead Silence there on the rack. And I immediately had to grab it, and it was one of those like things where I saw it. I believe the DVD was like $27.99 new, and I was like, "No, I know, goddamn well I could get this cheaper, and it's inflated as hell, but I'm gonna get it because I got money." And I just remember when I bought it, it was the day that I had all that money, so that movie's kind of burned into my brain.
Yeah, this weed's pretty damn good.
Yeah, actually, sorry for talking. I was gonna say
it's really smooth.
It's sweet. When I hit it, it tastes like it definitely has like a sweet. It's almost, dare I say, sugary? It's very sweet. It is. Like, the exhale is very nice.
All right. So,
is that about it?
I think that's about it for Stray Wreck current events. Get on to Horror Hiss.
Horror Hiss?
This week in horror history.
All right, John, tell us, what do we have going on this week for horror history?
All right. Horror history, we're going to take a look at some birthdays and some other, I guess movies that came out. Not really too many movies this week. But January 9th, we celebrate the birthdays of Angela Bettis and Lee Van Cleef. Angela Bettis, better known for her roles in such films as May, A Girl Interrupted.
May. Yep.
As well as her portrayal of Carrie White in the 2002 TV adaptation of Stephen King's Carrie.
Yep, that's right, actually. Yeah.
Not the best. Lee Van Cleef, he's better known for his roles in westerns, but he's also in several horror films, including The House by the Cemetery and Escape from New York.
Escape from New York, he's worked with John Carpenter, that's right. Lee Van Cleef was an old school Hollywood man. You could tell that dude didn't take shit just by looking at him with that mustache.
And he was good in the Dollars trilogy as well.
Oh yeah,
Eastwood.
for sure.
Oh, fucking losing my place here, Jesus. January 10th, and on this day in 1997, the horror film The Relic was released, directed by Peter Hyams. The movie follows a research team investigating a series of mysterious deaths at a museum, only to discover a terrifying creature lurking within.
Yeah, man, I love The Relic. The novel by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child is better than the movie, but the Cathoga monster in the movie is just fucking incredible. Stan Winston Studios with another win there, for sure. The Cathoga, like most great monster movies, keeps you seeing the monster to a minimum. The Cathoga only gets about 4 minutes of screen time, and a lot of that is shot in the dark, but the design is flawless. I mean, a monster hiding in a museum and eating brains, what's not to like? I'm keeping my fingers crossed that a major company does a special edition 4K of it one day, but I'm not buying any alternate slips.
Maybe Arrow.
Yeah.
Would you buy it if they gave you 3 slip covers?
I would sell the slip covers if it was worth. If that was the only way I could buy it is with 3 extra slips.
3 slips.
3 slips and a jab.
Anyway, moving on to January 11th. Happy birthday to Darren Lynn Bousman, the director of films such as Saw 2, 3, and 4. And Kyle Richards, an actress, obviously best known for her role in Halloween. And I guess she was only in Kills and Ends, right?
Yeah, correct.
And basically irrelevant in Ends. And
basically.
Watcher in the Woods, and also better known for that cat meme.
Oh yeah, that's right.
From Real Housewives. She's the OG original housewife.
Yeah, she's a real housewife in real life. That's right.
She a real housewife in real life. Moving on here, January 12th, we celebrate the birthday of Kirstie Alley, better known for her role in the 1995 film Village of the Damned.
Yeah, she did horror. That counts. That counts. John Carpenter.
Unfortunately, just recently passed.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And yeah, also some dude named Rob Zombie, musician, Rob. Filmmaker behind the Halloween remake, House of a Thousand Corpses. 31. What else am I
The
missing?
Devil's Rejects.
Devil's Rejects, that's
and the
right.
Monsters.
Yeah.
El Super
Best
Beasto.
director in his family. Happy birthday.
Yeah, true that.
And on this day in 1990, Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 was released.
I've said this before, but I stopped after the first one. I never cared for Texas Chainsaw 2 or 3.
Fordo?
Yeah, the Next Generation, I never cared for that. No,
It's so bad that you like it. Well, I mean, you don't. I do.
yeah, well, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Leatherface, has a cool background, though, depending on how you look at it. You know, like, there's some footage that unfortunately is lost forever due to the fact that they had to keep cutting it and sending it back to the MPAA 11 times. 11 times. And you know how back in the 80s how they'd make a poster for a movie before the production even started just to like sell the idea of the movie? Well, this movie's trailer was done before production started, and they didn't even have a director yet. So
What do you think fell off worse? Texas Chainsaw or Hellraiser?
oh god, dude, Hellraiser, they went to space quick. They went to space quick. Hellraiser was just yeah.
That's all we could get. It's just
But Hellraiser has the stronger first outings, but yeah, it went downhill a lot quicker.
And I believe, I'm double checking here, but we're moving on to February, Jesus. I'm already a month ahead here.
Yeah.
January 13th, and it is one of only 2 Friday the 13th this year. The other one's in October.
Oh, nice. I have to mark that day as a Friday the 13th
that
day.
happened a couple years ago, I feel like.
You have to watch, if it's October and you believe in watching the 31 movies for 31 days of Halloween, and there's a Friday the 13th day in that month, you have to watch a fucking Friday the 13th film on that day. Just be a dick and watch a Nightmare on Elm Street. What are you watching on Friday the 13th? Dream Warrior, son.
Now that you bring that up, I feel like it was about 3 or 4 years ago. There was a Friday the 13th in October. And I started, obviously it ran a little bit over, but I watched every single Friday the 13th movie that day. Like, I just back to back did not, like, one's done, moved on to 2, and just went in the order that they were released. And I'm including Freddy versus Jason.
Holy shit.
I'm thinking about it, but I don't know that I'm going to get Nicole on board this time to do that.
Want to do a full 24-hour marathon?
But anyway,
but
I haven't even talked about the 2 movies that were released today, and I feel like we mentioned both of these last year. I'm fairly confident.
But before, let me tell you my bit about Pumpkinhead real quick.
Well, one of them is ta-da, Pumpkinhead.
I thought you already announced. Didn't you announce it already?
No, I hadn't announced it.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because we went right into Friday the 13th.
You're right,
Pumpkinhead,
you're right.
directed in 89 by Stan Winston, starring Lance Hendrickson. And the other one, Demon Knight, in 1995, a film in the Tales in the Crypt series.
Well, again, I'll start with Pumpkinhead. Yeah, I drooled over this movie enough in the past, so I'm not going to hold us up, but I will say that I brought this up to you before, John. That Lance Henriksen said that some of those coins that he pays Haggis with fell under the mud, fell under the cabin in the mud and water under her little cabin. And that's like true. Like to this day, there's like coins from the movie somewhere in that mud. And I would love for you and I to make that a trip sometime and go up there. And I know we'd get dirty as shit, but if we walked home with a pocket full of like coins, you know,
High on
like,
Horror
oh my God,
finds Pumpkinhead coins.
would you sell them? I don't think I would.
It depends how many there was.
True. If there was like 4 or 5, I'd maybe keep like 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
You know, that's true. Fair enough.
There you go. There's 5 of them. We'll each keep 2 and then sell the extra one. Split it.
And get new microphones.
You're welcome, Josh.
But in Demon Knight, Billy Zane gives the performance of his career here, man. I know he's Mr. Titanic after this, but you know, this movie was fantastic for 2 reasons. 1, it was a good movie, and 2, it showed that a show like Tales from the Crypt could branch out into movies, and it killed it. It was a big deal. Tales from the Crypt was unstoppable to a point, and the next feature, Bordello of Blood, was a total disaster due to Dennis Miller sabotaging it and being an egomaniac on set. The movie wasn't as good as Demon Knight, but it could have been better than it was.
And also, moving on here, January 14th, on this day in 1981, the science fiction horror film Scanners was released, directed by David Cronenberg. The movie follows a man with telepathic powers who becomes embroiled in a plot to take over the world.
Brilliant film, man. And the
It's
thing
Cronenberg. Of course, it's brilliant.
the thing that stands out to me, the thing that I think of first isn't the head explosion, it's the score by Howard Shore. It's unnerving and yet beautiful. But the thing is, Scanners seems to be like the most important and like favorited film amongst horror fans. Like everybody, whenever it's like Cronenberg, everybody's like Scanners, and you know where we stand.
Videodrome.
Yeah,
dog.
right. You know, it's Videodrome, but no, Scanners is like the. I think that was because it was his breakthrough movie, so that's the movie that maybe stands out to people
Yeah,
the most.
that's fair.
Because that's when they like would remember like actually recognizing him as a director. But there's no way that Scanners is better than Videodrome. I'm sorry, you know, come at me.
Drew said, "Don't at me." But yeah, I think that'll about wrap up horror history. So you know,
All right.
always join us again for more birthdays, movies, and other horror related events.
Now, let's get into Puff Puff Ask, the segment of our show where we answer the questions that you listeners send in to us at High on Horror 420 on social media, at our website, or our email at highonhorror420@gmail.com.
Yo, man. Puff, puff, pass.
Okay, I'll go first. Our first question in Puff Puff Ask is from Ken from Instagram. John, he asked us, if we could go back in time and be the victim of any kill in any horror movie, what would we choose? My answer is Bob from Halloween. That's the one that comes to the top of my head when I think of a kill from a horror movie. Not that it's like my favorite, but it's like I guess the one that is just, that's the word association. You say like favorite kill or kill in a horror movie, and that's what I see. And or maybe, you know, I'd let Chucky use the like air tire thingy on me and knock me through some desks and then beat me with a yardstick like he does Miss Kettlewell in Child's Play 2.
Yeah, but that sounds brutal.
Yeah, and to get your ass whooped by a doll too, that sucks.
I was gonna say surprise finger in the butthole from Halloween 2.
Oh yeah, off the back with the
That would be rough though, but that's an iconic kill.
For real.
Or any kind of from Bride of Chucky with Jennifer Tilly. Like, sign me up for that. She can tie me up and shit.
So did you you want to be Damien? You want to be like the dude?
Yeah, but he did get that thing just. That's rough.
But
Yeah,
I mean, maybe it'd be worth it for 5 minutes with Tilly. You know,
Right.
5 minutes. We're gonna call it 5 minutes with Tilly. But wait, so did you just name a Halloween movie and a Child's Play movie?
yes. Well, so I followed up with yours, but yeah, Halloween 2 I feel like that'd be a good one. But I feel like Bob's, that's kind of rough. You got there and then your toes just dangling.
Yeah, but the thing is, Michael wouldn't be able to do that to us. Our fat asses would just split down the middle, and the knife would just
See,
cut
it's
us.
making it even worse.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he'd have a knife big enough to pin through us into the wall. You know, that might be a struggle for him.
That's fair. I think. Yeah.
You want to leave it there? Yeah, let's go.
Maybe you want to rethink yours at this point.
I'm just gonna imagine Michael's strong enough and has a knife that will do the task.
Just, I don't know. I know it ain't working on me. That's for sure. Yeah, shit.
We're like pincushion to the wall. He needs like 9 knives to hold us up.
Oh my god.
I'm too high right now, dude. That sugar cane is doing its job.
Got a sugar rush. Bile Boy. Where the fuck do you get these names from?
Instagram, bro. Bile boy.
Bile Boy asks if we have any heart tattoos. No, I don't. But I do have a tattoo. Nicole and I have somewhat matching Pokemon tattoos. I got a Gengar. I mean, he's a ghost Pokemon. I guess that's about as close as he gets.
I think we might have been asked that question before, man. I don't know. Like, it's all kind of blurring together at this point.
Bile Boy didn't ask it, though.
Yeah, that's true. But no, I don't have any horror-themed tattoos either. I have a Boondock Saints tattoo. But I plan on having like a horror sleeve eventually. I have a plan. I just don't have the money. Priorities.
And I also have a Ace of Spades tattoo on my forearm, inside forearm. But, yeah, I don't know. It's funny because I don't even know what I would get as a horror tattoo.
I
don't even
want
have anything
portraits, but
planned out.
I'm always iffy about like the draw. Like you saw like that Wednesday tattoo, the Wednesday Addams tattoo. Somebody got a Wednesday Addams tattoo, and Jenna Ortega came out looking like Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
The portraits make me
That's
scary,
why
but they're the best
you
kind.
have them mock it up first before they just start.
Yeah, how you gonna freehand Samuel L. Jackson on somebody? That's wild.
That's like, I mean, like my latest one, I just got it done, was it September? Like, the guy drew a sketch and then they put it on. He's like, if somebody was like, I want to go freehand, I'd be like, no.
Yeah, not on a sketch. No fucking way. Not on a portrait either.
Oh, I think I know what horror tattoo I get. I'll get the thorn.
The thorn
On
symbol.
my left wrist.
I've always wanted to get Elvira on my under my under forearm, like laying on the red couch. That would be a sick tattoo if it
That
was
sounds
pulled off.
expensive as fuck.
And if it was like done right with the right like portrait style, it would be expensive. And from wrist to elbow, that'd be a sick tattoo. And then on the other side, I'd have Mike Myers' face with the house under it, kind of.
I don't know why
have a
that
little
sounds deeply pornographic. Wrist to elbow.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyway, now let's move on to our review of this episode's topic, Sissy.
All right, so Sissy is a 2022 dark comedy horror. The film is written and directed by Hannah Barlow and Kane Senes. The film stars Aisha D as Cecilia, Hannah Barlow as Emma, Emily D. Margrady, I'm probably butchering that, as Alex, Daniel Monk as Jamie, Erin Ha as Tracy, and Lucy Barrett as Fran. The movie follows the story of two best friends, Cecilia and Emma, as they navigate the ups and downs of their friendship. We see flashbacks of their younger selves and their bond of friendship, as well as telling the present-day story as they reunite. We also see Cecilia struggling with her own identity as she tries to move past the nickname of Sissy that has followed her a long time. And as the story unfolds, we see Emma inviting Cecilia to an engagement party and a hen's weekend getaway, which is a distinct Australian term because I had never heard of that.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you said that in America, you would be sexist. If you were like, oh, what's Nicole up to? And I'd be like, oh, she's on a hen's weekend somewhere. Like, I feel like if you said that in America, they'd label you sexist.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Anyway, that leads to more drama and confrontations with the character from Cecilia's past. And the film, we open with like a videotape of Cecilia and Emma like talking about how they're best friends, how they're going to stay together forever. And then we kind of go to present day. We see Cecilia. She's, I guess, a podcaster / influencer. And
YouTuber, yeah.
helping people with their mental health. And then we see her in the store, and some of the products, you didn't even catch this because we talked about this off air. And I wish I brought it up in the interview. But I didn't because I forgot about it. But when she's in there going through the aisle, the name for the tampons is Bloody Brilliant.
Yeah, I did not catch that. That is awesome, though.
That made me laugh, and I was like, okay. Because it kind of starts pretty serious. I'm like, okay, it's going to be, something where we just get those, like, brief moments of levity but it's not something that takes, like, the humor's not something that takes you out of the movie.
Yeah.
And Cecilia sees Emma actually first and tries to hide from her. And then Emma notices her and she invites her out to an engagement party. And when you're there, this kind of happens throughout the film. And it's really well done as we get close-ups of Cecilia. And you can just tell how uncomfortable she is being in public.
Agreed.
And
you really feel the anxiety.
It feels very jarring and uneasy, is how I describe it.
Yeah.
Cecilia also wants to let people know she is not Sissy anymore.
That's very true.
And we get flashbacks of Cecilia and Emma, when they were kids again. Kind of happens a lot throughout the film. We have a lot of flashbacks to this videotape and just... Actually, I guess was it multiple videos?
Yeah,
I feel like it was.
I feel like it was like a.
Well, maybe it was the same tape
with like a mixtape type of VHS. Yeah,
a mixed VHS tape.
Yeah, where you just record a bunch of shit on one tape.
And Cecilia goes to the engagement party, and Emma is trashed. And I always feel like in the beginning, Emma's putting Cecilia in a lot of uncomfortable positions that you can tell she doesn't want to do.
It's unintentional though. It's like she's like trying to just welcome her as part of her life again and family again. It's like Cecilia's resistant to that and doesn't know how to accept that, so it makes her awkward. But it's a nice gesture from Hannah. She means well. Sissy just is very awkward.
Cecilia.
Right. I'm sorry. Yikes.
Oh. My bad. I insult you, and then I kick the table. I'm going to have to hear about that one from Josh.
Yep, our editor and producer, Josh, is going to love you.
Extraordinaire. But, also, like, it's funny, though, because, like, you can tell she doesn't want to do the karaoke, but then she gets up and does the karaoke.
Yeah.
And it's like they're besties again. And, then we cut to Emma yakking in the bathroom, and she ends up inviting Cecilia to that weekend getaway. And then on the ride home in her Uber, Cecilia recognizes someone from her past is like in post on Emma's Instagram, and she starts having bad flashbacks. So she has the Uber driver take her to another location where she digs up the box that we see earlier in the videos, like their little time capsule that they bury to their future self. She goes and digs it up.
I wish I had a friend like that, man. Like,
right?
I wish I had some shit like that. That'd be so cool, man. Like, that would just be so cool to have a friend with that was that like sentimental, where you all had like a box that like you could dig up and find at some point. That's awesome,
And Cecilia watches the video and just has just a wave of nostalgia wash over. And she falls asleep, and then she has a nightmare, and you can tell it's like younger her, because we've already seen the younger her from
and
the
her
videos.
hair, the way her hair is,
And she's like crying over in the corner, and she confronts herself in the dream and tells herself not to be a sissy. And also on that drive over with the Uber, we find out that it's a girl named Alex, a person from her not-so-happy flashbacks, is going to be at the cabin.
And she's like a HBIC, too. She's like... she's a really important part of Emma's life.
Yeah, on the drive over there, she finds that out, because somebody mentions it, and you can just see, like, the pure, like, terror.
Yeah, the anxiety. Like I said, the anxiety. Yeah, for sure.
It just like immediately is like, what the fuck?
She doesn't sweat. She's beautiful. She's like she's really pretty. So but and it's not sweat, but you want to say she does glisten on those like close ups. You want to say like you could feel the anxiety. She almost looks like she's sweating, but she's not. You don't see nothing run down her face or nothing, but you sense the perspiration. If that makes sense.
And she has another bad flashback. And you have these kids saying Sissy's a sissy being led by Alex.
Yeah.
And then Cecilia hits a kangaroo on the way over there, and it's all twitching and shit. And then, like, she imagines her younger self, like, as the kangaroo being hit. And when they get to the cabin, the other girls kind of go in first. Cecilia kind of lags behind. And all the other girls are in there celebrating, and Cecilia comes in, and the look on that grown-up now Alex's face is just a combo of scared and angry. I call it like skangry.
Yeah. Skangry. Took a second to register. This weed's fucking me up.
And then Alex immediately takes Emma outside, and just everyone's confused. Alex starts talking like very passionately to Emma, and Cecilia's just kind of standing there like looking on. And the only thing you can really hear is you hear Alex say that to Emma that Cecilia's crazy. Mm-hmm. And that's about the only thing you make out from the whole conversation. And Cecilia kind of feels like she's being left out of everything. They're all kind of like celebrating, but she's kind of like a little offish.
Yeah, standoffish. And I mean, with Alex being there, it makes things worse. And basically, before we even learn their history, you know right away that it's a pissing contest over who's Emma's best friend.
Yeah.
Without even knowing why, you just know, oh, these two are like petty competing over the same chick.
And Cecilia ends up going upstairs, and she brings out that time capsule that she made, and everyone's having fun. Alex also really wasn't with the group either. She kind of stormed off after she came back in from talking with Emma outside.
Yeah.
And then they're watching the video. We've already seen it numerous times, but now Emma's friends are seeing it. Everybody's like laughing, thinking it's cute, and because they're in there like on the video talking about how they're going to be best friends forever, and they can't imagine each other not in their lives, and like everybody thinks it's cute. And then Alex comes downstairs, and she just shuts that shit down. She just, was not about it.
Agreed, yeah. So, like I said, the jealousy is real. And
then at dinner, we get even more tension between Alex and Cecilia. Because, I will say, Cecilia doesn't buy into where they're like, oh, she's famous. And she's like, no, I'm not. Because they try calling her an influencer. And she's like, oh, I don't want that title. And but then like Alex is like the complete opposite. She was like, oh, she doesn't have a degree. She's a fraud. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And like
Just humiliates her. Just
and
utterly.
then Cecilia's like, well, like I
humiliates
tell
her.
my audience that I'm not a doctor. This is just my experience. She's like, yeah, but then everybody kind of starts going to Alex's side and was like, yeah, what if you're giving people bad information? They listen to you.
Yeah.
And Alex just keeps calling her Sissy over and over.
On purpose. You can
Oh,
tell
no,
it's a
for
jab.
sure.
It's a jab. The way it's said, even.
And then mocks her for like being
Yeah.
a podcaster. And for any of you there listening to that and you're on Alex's side, hey, we're important people, okay?
Podcasters
yeah,
matter.
we're important, damn it. But yeah, then that's kind of where the story really starts getting going after the dinner. I don't want to spoil anything, but
Yeah.
Sissy, for me, it's a dramatic exploration. It's like friendship, identity. There's a heavy focus on, Cecilia, Emma, and Alex are really, I guess it's, for lack of a better term, a love triangle, but like friendship.
Yeah.
The use of flashback and dream sequences kind of adds a layer of complexity to the story. The tension between Cecilia and Alex is just as like there's so many uncomfortable moments. The engagement party, the cabin trip, it's just that adds to the overall unease I feel in the film. One thing is I like the extreme close-ups, especially Aisha, who plays Cecilia. Like she really can play a really good range of emotions. And that just, I feel, adds to the overall tension and discomfort in certain scenes. Sissy is a poignant and thought-provoking film, touches on important themes of self-acceptance and complexities of relationships. I'd give it a 7.8 out of 10.
Yeah, that's you mentioned a lot of things, and you're right. You kind of, you went before me, so you got all the good lines. You said all the important shit, and you described everything right. And I agree with everything that you said. The one thing that you didn't bring up though was that it's a massive take on how trauma affects you from
For
childhood.
sure.
Because Sissy is something. What happens from Sissy's childhood is the reason she is the way she is now. So it shows you like how childhood grows with you if you don't handle
how
it
it
properly.
frames
Not
your
childhood,
reality, really.
not childhood. How fucking yeah, but how trauma follows you and grows with you and evolves and basically consumes you into like the point where you don't even know who you are anymore. It's pretty deep. This movie came out of nowhere. In my opinion, like I didn't hear anything about it. I didn't see it covered in any magazines.
I didn't hear about it until you told me about it.
Right,
Even though it was on Shudder, I didn't hear anything about
Well,
it.
Shudder sent us a screener. That's just it, So that's and I was shocked by the production quality. Like it looks like a studio film. It is so smooth and polished, and it's so well acted. That was one of the things that pulled me in. Was it's like you're watching a movie that's indie, and your first things are okay. Does it look cheap, and is the acting bad? And right away you're like, no, the production quality is good, and the acting seems really well, and it is. It blends practical effects with CGI very well, and it's a very funny movie. I laughed a lot, and it gets gory as shit and dark as shit. The ending is insane and so diabolical. I give it 8.25 out of 10.
The ending,
What a twist, right? Blood in the eyes, literally.
it was one of those films that I feel like there's so many, unfortunately, horror films that are maybe not this kind of concept, but based on, it's just like, you're like, how is this not caught? How is this able to play out? There's no way this would be realistic. And I was watching this and I'm like, how are they going to wrap this up? How is this? I just don't understand how this is going to end. And I'm like, oh wow, that was pretty good.
Yeah, it wound down perfectly, and there's there's not much trivia online about the film, so there's not a burn and learn on this episode. The knowledge you'll get about this movie from this episode will come from the interview that we'll get into in a few minutes. Newer movies are always harder to get information on,
Sure.
The only thing posted on IMDb under the trivia section is quite interesting. It says Hannah Barlow, in addition to playing Emma and co-directing the film, also sings the last song in the credits, an ode to Narcissa, performed by Hannah Barlow, composed by Kenneth Lample, and Hannah Barlow, lyrics by Hannah, and produced by Kenneth Lample. So that's interesting. I did not know that Emma also sang on top of directing and acting.
I read that and I 100% forgot all about it until you just said it again.
Maybe she'll sing a song for us if we ask. Doubtful.
But yeah, I feel like it weaves a bunch of different subgenres together well.
Agreed. It does, like, it has that you're a fan of Mean Girls, and it does definitely have a Mean Girls vibe to it. It has like a what's the Jawbreaker? Did you ever see Jawbreaker?
Oh yeah, I love Jawbreaker.
Yeah, it has that whole vibe of like those, like that group of girls, but it also has like that dark humor that I don't really have a reference off the top of my head, but it's just that dark humor that really just curves that girl film into like something a little bit more dreadful, than just like girls like putting bad notes in your locker. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you brought up Jawbreaker. I was going to say Rose McGowan's going to be at Monster Mania. Apparently, she's never done a horror con before.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they were able to get her for the March one.
I would definitely get her autograph. I would get I know everybody's going to go for Scream, but I would do Planet Terror, man. I love Planet Terror with the gun leg, man. Fuck yeah.
Nicole loves that, and Death Proof.
I want to know who's going to bring like a piece of a garage door in for her to autograph. Here's a little flap. Here's a little doggy door for the garage.
Doggy door, that'd be amazing. Like how PJ Souls gets telephones.
Yeah, right.
All right, we're just rambling now. So let's get into our interview with the writers and directors of Sissy, Kane Senes, and Hannah Barlow.
With us today, we have the writers and directors of Sissy, which is now available on Shudder to stream. Welcome, Kane Senes and Hannah Barlow. Thank you for being on High on Horror.
G'day. Thanks for having us.
Good to be here.
So you two are both our first guests from Australia on High on Horror, and every culture is different. Can you two tell us what's some horror films that are big down there, or more fittingly, should I say, down under?
I'm really glad I said g'day because that's representing our whole country in one expression.
I mean, come on, like the first Aussies, really? I'm proud of that. Australian horror represent.
We love our own film, like our own beautiful, rich history of film, and we've got to start with Wake in Fright.
That's probably our all-time favorite Aussie horror film. Ted Kotcheff, who directed First Blood, came down to Australia and shot Wake in Fright, which is a great little kind of horror film about being stuck in the outback.
A Canadian made the best Australian horror film of all time.
Yeah. That's what always happens, right? It kind of takes an outside perspective.
But we also love The Loved Ones.
Yeah, Loved Ones, the Sean Byrne film from, I think, 2009.
I love The Loved Ones. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big reference for us.
Where the girl ties the guy to the chair and drills him with the drill gun and everything. Yeah, that movie's awesome.
It's really fun.
It's probably the best comedy horror that we've made, I think. But, there's lots of great Australian horror. I mean, Babadook is a recent one that did really well. There's plenty. Long Weekend.
The Nightingale,
Razorback, going back a few decades.
You Won't Be Alone, I think, was my favourite film of the year. And that's an Australian-Macedonian horror film.
Australian director.
He is a talent to watch. His work is beautiful.
Yeah, check that film out if you guys haven't seen it yet. I think it came out this past year.
Goran Stilevsky. Yeah.
No, that's one I haven't caught yet. I did want to ask you guys, though, what about Wolf Creek? Wolf Creek is huge over here. Is it as big over there as it is here?
I think it put Australia on the map.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's big, It's not very often that Australian films get a sequel, Greg McLean's a big kind of director here. He's pretty well known especially in kind of the genre scene. Yeah, it's funny. We always kind of skip that one because in a way it just seems so obvious because it is so well known.
Our connection to Wolf Creek is that our first AD, Rick Beecroft, was the first AD on Wolf Creek.
Yeah, so
there's some lineage there.
He always had a lot of Wolf.
Oh, awesome.
He always had a lot of Wolf Creek stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, so you both are on High on Horror, so I always ask our guests this. Do either of you indulge in cannabis?
Absolutely. Not that it's legal in Australia.
Yes, seriously? Awesome.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's not legal in Delaware neither.
I'm just going to hold up for you my little rolling tray of a little stone
amazing.
Raphael Ninja Turtle.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Oh, that is amazing. Is Raphael your favorite Ninja Turtle?
You know, it's tricky. I would have to say it's Michelangelo growing up because he was just always my guy as a kid. But the older I get, the more I look.
He was the party dude.
Yeah, I know. Like he was just like, I don't know what it is. He's the party boy, right? And then the older I got, the more I align with Raph because he's just the kind of he's the tortured one, right? He's kind of like the tortured artist of the group.
I like Donatello myself.
Yeah, Donatello's my favorite, but I did not like Raphael as a kid, but it's kind of the same thing as when I got older. I'm like, okay, I kind of understand where he's coming from.
Yeah, like I just we recently both just got on Letterboxd, which had been like a long time coming, and I did like a top 50 all-time list, and I was just trying to be really honest, and I found that the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film from 1990 made the top 10. And it just got me thinking back to when Raph gets thrown through that skylight into April's building and just ass whooped by the Foot Clan. It's just a great.
Now, do you guys have a favorite way to consume cannabis? Is it smoking, edibles?
Well, Kane does this very elegant thing where he rolls it with tea leaves because we met in LA and we actually spent the first 4 years of our relationship in LA when we were in our 20s. And that was very much a fun pastime for us.
Yeah.
Was as Australians being like, oh my God, there's a whole world of cannabis here.
Yeah. It's like going to like the wine store or something, the liquor store. It was
we
incredible.
very much considered doing one of those Denver tours,
where you like sit in the limo and they give you all different types of strains and edibles and stuff and they drive you around.
But we're kind of limited here, so we just kind of water it down. And
but yeah, I've definitely gone from being the LA kind of smoking it straight because that stuff that you guys got over there is so strong. And when we came back to Australia, it's mostly kind of bush like out like what we call bushweed. It's outdoor grown and it's a lot weaker. And I just got used to that again and. Whenever I go back to LA, like for work or whatnot, we just...
One of us greens out.
Man, one of us just has a bit too much and is like on the floor in amoeba just clutching records and the other one has to like escort them out.
Yeah.
It just gets too much. So now I just really go weak. It's mostly tea leaves, ground up or like terp kush or whatever it's called, where it's kind of like the rest of the plant that's ground up but there's no THC in it. I kind of use that as filler.
Yeah.
And I just really sprinkle it on top now. So it's pretty light. I'd rather just kind of be able to, measure it instead of getting greened out.
That's nice. So you have your own little like method and technique going down for you guys. That's cool. Do you guys vape? Do you use vapes at all?
We do have a PAX, but we just don't use it as much, do we?
I love PAX.
Yeah, I got a PAX 3. Those things are expensive and they're supposedly like the best thing ever. But and I'll like take it into like when we go to like the cinema, I'll take it and sit in the back and use it. And it's pretty funny. Like we went to see the Super Mario Brothers film the other day, the one with Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins, and that was just a great time to crack out the packs.
Dennis Hopper is Bowser.
Dennis Hopper. I had never I'd seen it as a kid, and then I'd never watched it again while smoking, and I was just like, man, they must have been high making this film. It makes a lot more sense when you're a little blazed.
Oh man! All right. Well, what made you two, Hannah and Kane? What made you two want to make movies? What was like the spark in you that said, "Hey, I want to do this for a living"?
I think we are just. This is going to sound like a total wank. I don't think there's anything else that we can do. I think that we are just artistic people, and if we were trying to do any other career, we would probably drive everybody around us crazy. because we're expressive, sensitive souls. And I think that's what we were attracted to in each other, because we started as a romantic couple and then segued into a creative couple. And we're film fans first. I mean, Kane's in film fandom. He has like an encyclopedic knowledge of film. So I don't think there was any other course for him.
I was never like, you know, the kid kind of running around with like the Bolex when I'm 8 years old, like, you know, Spielberg. I just discovered it at my first year of my undergrad in college, and I just took a film class, and I just kind of realized, oh, wow, like all my loves were, you know, like through high school, I was really into acting. I was really into painting and doing art. I was really into creative writing. And I was like, well, hang on a second. This is the one art form that encapsulates all of the things that I love about art. And so from then on, it just made a lot of sense. And then like, I just thought back and I was like, oh yeah, like my parents would have arguments over who's going to take me to the video store because they knew they'd be sitting in the car outside for 2 hours. So it just like, it made a lot of sense.
Sounds like me as a kid.
Yeah. Sorry?
Yeah, that was the same thing with my parents. That or like bookstores. They're like, no, I don't want to go. This is going to be 45 minutes to an hour and a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now that's transferred to a letterboxd top 50 list addiction.
Yeah. It's become a complete addiction. It feels like I'm back in the video store again in some way.
He's so happy. I'm like, oh God. It's like his version of Instagram or TikTok.
But like I always say, you know, to Hannah and stuff, even like I would, if I had to pick between making films and having films in my life as a fan, I think I would have to always go with being a fan first, because I'm just always grateful for having a movie, you know, like I was bummed out about something last night. I threw on a film just popped into my mind that I needed to watch.
Straight Outta Compton.
It happened to be Straight Outta Compton. I put it on and it just...
Good movie.
It's a good movie. I don't know why. I hadn't thought about that film in a while. It was nothing specific about it. It just popped in my head. Put that on.
What did you quote? What was the quote?
People speak a little truth and people lose their minds.
Yeah, we were talking in this deep discussion. He's like, people speak a little truth, people lose their minds. And he was like, let's put on Straight Outta Compton.
And so, you know, like film is medicine. Like movies are medicine to me, and I guess they always have been. And so the older I get, the more I realize that that's just been something from day one, really.
Yeah, it's like church, it's medicine, and it's a touchstone of our lives. And so to be able to
make them.
Attempt it ourselves, it's like a true joy.
Yeah. So sometimes it feels like we're cheating life a little bit, you know.
No, I totally understand. I'm the same way. You know, I suffer from like a lot of anxiety issues, and whenever I'm down or having like a really bad mental day, it's always like put on The Crow or Return of the Living Dead or something I've seen 100 times, and it mends the soul. It does, even though you've seen it 1,000 times.
Yeah,
there's something about it that just for some reason it makes you feel better. There's definitely healing power in watching movies. I 100% agree with you guys. And I wanted to ask you, how does co-writing and directing work for the two of you?
It's pretty seamless. Like, I feel like we just kind of, because we're together in life and we live together, it's just, we have a lot of time together, and we always just end up talking about things. We always end up talking about what we're into, or like, hey, that'd be cool as a story, you know, and we'd be able to work out this thing that we're struggling with in our lives. We'd be able to work out and maybe put that into a film and pull it apart and kind of dissect it. And so it always comes from a place of like, you know, what are we going through in life, and we're talking about it anyway. And so then the conversation often segues to, well, how, like, let's write about that in some way, you know? And so it kind of starts there. And
I think we just start sort of attacking a structure together, and then the vomit draft comes out. I am more the person who is less daunted by the white page, and Kane is less daunted by helming a set. So we lean on each other for different things.
Yeah, we always kind of say that Hannah's like a writer that has to direct her script, and I'm like a director that needs a script to direct.
Yeah, and we're trying to grow up either. So
we kind of meet in the middle, you know, and we borrow from each other.
Which makes it a far less lonely and more enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So it's like you two literally complete each other in that sense. That's really awesome.
It's funny, you know, where
getting into
where Tom Cruise and Renee Zellweger standing across the room from the Divorced Women's Club, you know, at 1 a.m. saying, "You complete me."
You had me at hello.
Well, okay, getting into Sissy and the two of you working together and how you collaborate. What was the inspiration behind Sissy? I have to know, like, with a story like that, did one of you know someone like that in real life that was like just like a psycho jealous bitch, or was that just something somebody made up?
We don't talk about this a lot, but
we did survive.
Yes.
We did survive a massacre in a mountain house, and we just decided to write about it. I hope the real Cecilia doesn't find out.
I think that the inspiration had started from a place of trying to understand someone with who wasn't well, who we had to kind of cut out of our lives to be healthy. And then in I love it. I love the.
It's too early in the morning for like wake and bake. I like I like forgot High on Horror. Duh. I didn't realize.
Yeah, I'm getting distracted by your awesomeness. Both ripped one in various points. It's so good. Respect. Yeah. So we were trying to.
Like trying to find like a pre-rolled joint or something, but there's nothing around.
Yeah, we're trying to process that, and then in processing that and coming up with like this general like cabin in the woods structure around our attempt to understand a certain personality type and how someone expresses their pain and how it's not their fault, it comes from wounding, and then looking at ourselves, because the only way that you can forgive somebody is to forgive yourself and actually be accountable for your own behavior and your part in like a friendship breakup or a breakup or a disentanglement when you're moving out of enmeshment with toxic people. The only way that you can forgive and actually heal is to truly examine how you've also wounded them and triggered them. So
And I think for us, like as soon as we decided to do that, that's when Cecilia went from being
this
villain like in a traditional slasher film to actually the protagonist. And we were like, right, we have to write from her perspective. Like we have to be her, not one of the final girls, and keep her at an arm's length. Like, you know, any other slasher villain, but we actually need to be her and be in her shoes, because that's how we're going to understand what our old friend was going through.
Yeah, because we're all victims, rescuers, and perpetrators, right? So
in some way.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where it all was. It was all inspired from that place, really.
Yeah, and then it was just looking around the world and being like, "Holy shit, man! Like the place, like the world's insane with everyone having a mouthpiece online and like just opinions." And obviously, at the time, America was kind of splitting into these two main factions, and there was just like this growing divide in the world. And it was right around that time when we started to write it in like 2018.
We just left America because we were like, we're not staying around for this, because Trump was inaugurated. Like, holy fuck, like this place is going to shit. No offense.
None taken.
We have our own political issues here, of course, but yeah, we were just like looking at all of that and being like, where is this all headed? And our relationship with social media is making everything worse, and we're all really wounded by stuff that's happening a million miles away, and the leader of the free world is a narcissistic sociopath, and how are we contributing to putting him on a pedestal? And yeah, we were sort of deconstructing all of that, and also without giving anything away, these sort of pathological constructions that we make in our own minds of how we get away with our own really toxic, damaging behavior, and how we live with ourselves after we've done really awful things to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
And Kane, you brought up slasher films, and I read that you are a fan of slasher films. Do you have a favorite slasher film, or like favorites?
It's funny because it's like I wouldn't say any slasher film is in, like my top film list or anything like that. It's just as a genre, I just love going through them and binging them as much as possible. Like I remember in the lead up to production, I just watched like all the Friday the 13th films in a row over basically a week.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, I did. Like I'd seen a lot of them in the past, but like I don't think I'd seen all of them and not in sequential order. So I did that, which was a lot of fun. I really like is number 5 the one with Crispin Glover where they have the house party.
4.
Sorry, I always mix that up. I really like.
That's my favorite
I
one.
really like Friday the 13th Part 4, and I think my favorite slasher from all time may actually be Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. It's like gets slept on a lot, and it's kind of become a little more reappraised lately. But and they did that documentary with Mark, the lead. But
it's so sad.
It's a really great rewatch. I found it's to me, it's maybe the first time I'd seen a slasher film where, you feel like it's about, because the whole concept of that one is like Freddy is trying to get through to the real world, and he's trying to get through. He's basically using this kid as basically his kind of portal through to the real world. So it's kind of like a possession story, and it's a transformation story, and you're essentially watching this good-natured kid turn into Freddy Krueger in the real world. And I just think, I don't know if any other slasher, at least not from that era, has kind of had done that before. And it's become this kind of like bastion of kind of queer horror narrative, and I love that it's got that about it too. But beyond that, it's just. I just think it's really slept on, and to me, it's probably my favorite Nightmare film.
He was championing Sissy online.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, so I probably got to go there, and my favorite horror of all time is Alien, and it's probably in like my top 3 favorite films of all time, the original Alien. And you could call that a slasher. I mean, it's a monster in a house. It's
Terminator 2 is really good as well.
Yeah, but Terminator 2 is not a slasher.
Well, isn't it?
Nah, it's got slasher elements, but it's not like it's a that's what makes that film so great. It's got a lot of different elements in it. It's a slasher film. It's a time travel film. It's an action film. It's horror. But I definitely would say Alien has a lot of slasher elements. I mean, it's one creature that's picking off the crew one by one. So I probably have to go. If you consider Alien a slasher, I got to be clear about this. If you consider Alien a slasher, that's number 1, and Freddy's Revenge is number 2.
I guess Alien could classify that way. I always kind of looked at it as a haunted house movie in outer space.
It is, but it's a haunted house movie in which the crew gets killed one by one. So it's kind of
fair enough.
And I was going to say, I have to agree with you with slasher. They're never going to be in my all-time top movies, but I just love the genre. It's just so much fun, like, to just throw it on. Like, if you're doing something, you just have it on in the background. I've seen them a million times, so it isn't like I got to pay much attention to the plot, and some of them have almost no plot to them.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's why with Sissy, we were just like, there's such a rich tradition with slasher films, like, yes, you set up the plot, but like the second half just needs to be a series of good kill scenes, because that's what people who are watching slashers in the background, that's what they stop to watch. It's not the story, it's the kill scenes.
And Hannah, do you have a favorite slasher movie?
No. No, not yet is my answer. I haven't done a lot of rewatches. I love the psychological horrors. I love, I don't know. Yeah, not yet.
Well, that's not where you came to the project from. That's not your background.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we kind of meet in the middle. I didn't know much about Mean Girls. You know what I mean? Like I'd probably seen it when it came out, but to me,
Oh, I love Mean
Yeah,
Girls.
like to me, that's not a film that I revisited. And through Hannah's lens, I was kind of like, holy shit, this film's great. And a lot of Sissy is Mean Girls. You know, it's Muriel's Wedding, which is kind of the Mean Girls of Australia, I guess. It's films like that, and that's
Like, would you call Titan a slasher?
yeah, I guess so. I mean, well, I don't know. Would you guys
it
call?
starts as a slasher and then it turns into something else.
Yeah, that's a wacky movie. Man.
Yeah, or
It's kinda. I'd say kinda.
yeah, or
But that's probably the closest you would get. Like, it's got to be a hybrid in some form because you're not like a fan of a true slasher.
yeah. Like, I would say that a lot of feminist comedies are psychological slashers, but they're not slashers. So yeah,
Insulting friends one by one
yeah, just like killing off people through like psychological warfare.
through lack of self-esteem.
Yeah. Just destroying people's souls.
And I want to talk about the score for Sissy. There's definitely a giallo elements to it. Are you guys fans of the genre? Do you have any favorite giallos?
Well, I mean, that's the other one. You didn't mention Suspiria, but
I love Suspiria.
That's right up there.
I love.
Hell yeah.
That's true. Yeah, the answer is not coming from a place of not. It's just it hasn't been solidified yet. Yeah.
I mean, is Suspiria a slasher?
Yeah.
No, it's more of a haunting witch
Yes,
movie.
Yeah.
There's a few kills in it, but I wouldn't say it's a slasher.
Like Scream's great. Yeah.
Scream. Yeah.
We're going to be answering this all podcast now.
There's a slasher.
But yeah, no. Ken Lample. He's a New Yorker, isn't he? He's from Queens or Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Queens? Brooklyn. Bronx.
The Bronx.
He's from the Bronx.
Yeah.
Sorry. No offense, man. He's a New Yorker that lives in Australia now, and we met up with him, and he just loved what we kind of pitched to him, where we were just like, look, like listen to all these giallo. Like we sent him a bunch of Goblin, we sent him like a lot of playlists, and he just kind of went nuts with it, and obviously brought a lot of his other influences, like a lot of kind of like the Bernard Herrmann kind of elements of the score, and a lot of like the kind of I guess like the Hitchcockian elements, and then also some Disney elements, like her kind of what he called the Sissy Waltz, you know, which is just kind of her little kind of dreamlike kind of delusional reality, which is a very kind of sweet theme, and he just kind of really enjoyed blending it all together, I guess. But yeah, we definitely wanted giallo style in there.
And didn't he got like a huge accolade recently?
Yeah, well, I think he got like top 10 of the American Film Institute, Music Institute in LA or something, like for scores.
Oh, wow.
So you know, he did a great job with it
In such a short amount of time as well. Like he was really under the pump. He's just like a true craftsman.
Yeah, there's just something so. There's something, because you mentioned, like, there's something so impactful, I think, about those giallo scores where they don't try to be subtle. They just kind of, you know, announce themselves as kind of like a character in the film almost, you know, and it's really heavy-handed, but we kind of love that about it.
Mm.
And this is something I had to ask because of the scene with the kangaroo. As an American, obviously, we don't have kangaroos. Is that something you see often on the side of the road? Like here, we have deer all the time at getting hit. I've hit a deer at one time in my life.
Shit.
Yeah, we have roadkill like kangaroos, wombats, wallabies, echidnas, like the Australian wildlife. As soon as you're an hour and a half outside of Sydney or any major city, you've got to really watch it. They're out.
a lot of kangaroos are like, as you're driving down to like the mountains on the freeways, it's pretty like you're seeing a lot of dead roos on the side of the road.
Yeah, it's really dangerous.
Yeah, well, I remember
they're huge.
That's where that came from in the film, was just us actually driving to the mountains and being like, wow, there's a lot of roadkill.
Yeah, and we have deer as well.
Yeah. We do have deer?
Yeah, we have deer in Thredbo.
No, we do. We do. If we'd done a deer, it would have seemed, you know, so universal.
What a lack of an opportunity. Yeah. Wasted opportunity.
And also Get Out had just had a deer when they hit the deer at the beginning as well. So we felt like we had to do something different.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk about the casting of younger Cecilia and Emma. Like, that was amazing. How hard was it to find younger versions of them? And also, younger versions, it looked so
Oh,
alike.
that's so nice that you say that, because that was a major concern. We were casting in the middle of the shoot, which was really hard. And, of course, because of the content of the script, a lot of parents did not want to submit their children to be in our film. So, we found Camille and Amelia and April through Morafay Casting, a local agency here, and their parents were just so like excited and lovely and willing, and those kids had never really acted before. Like Amelia, the young Cecilia, that was her first time acting in any scenario. Like she hadn't even done an acting class.
She never had a day on set, and her first night on set was just covered in blood, standing there, and it was like a night shoot.
But she's like
that one shot.
She's with Aisha and Lucy, and just like them cooing over her, and she's covered in blood, and she's just like having the best time.
We got very lucky, because we basically got sent maybe, I don't know, 20 kids or something, and told basically you have 24 hours to make a decision. And so, we were just so fortunate that we actually really liked some of those options. And we got really lucky. I mean, I don't know what we would have done if they weren't on that list, because there's quite a specific casting brief to kind of match these actors.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Kane, I wanted to ask you, as a male, what made you interested in making a film about females and female friendships and personal issues that deal with females?
Well, basically Hannah, like meeting Hannah and I mean, it's no kind of, secret that a lot of, kind of horror history has been directed by men, and the concept of like the final girl has been around forever. And it's usually about kind of women that are being preyed upon by some kind of killer man. So, it's not unusual, I guess, for a man to direct a group of women in a film. But I would say that because we're really exploring actual friendship, going back to, when girls are essentially kids, and how that forms on at that age, and how kind of the loss of a friend amongst girls is kind of like the first heartbreak that they often feel. All of that stuff I just learned from Hannah, and just from talking to her about it and from her own experiences. And I was just always very much wanting, I think, to learn and to make something that I couldn't have made on my own. It's just a bigger kind of challenge. And when you're going to work 2-3 years on something, you want to, I don't know, you want to just do something that you've never done before. And, so I really do attribute that to Hannah. I mean, there's this great, like, I always remembered not to put us in any way near in the same breath, but I read a long time ago that when Martin Scorsese was being asked by Ellen Burstyn, who had approval of director on the movie Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, when he went to meet with her, and she said, well, what do you know about this story about a woman who, who gets like a domestic abuse story about this woman, and we're in her shoes, and like, what, like, how are you going to direct this? You're an Italian American man, And he just said, I don't know, but I want to learn. I'm willing to learn. Like, I don't know yet how I'm going to, what my way in, but I want to find one, and I want to tell this story, and I want to learn. And that always stuck with me. And so as soon as the concept of this story came up, it was one of those things where I was like, this is my opportunity to do that in some small way. So that's kind of what it's been. It's been a wonderful learning experience, I think. Because it is different.
Awesome. Like I respect the hell out of that.
Well, when young boys fight or whatever, when we're growing up, like what my experience would have been, it's very different. I think we kind of aren't. It's not.
You punch each other and move on.
You punch each other and you move on. You say sorry. You share your lunch with them or something, or like your trading cards, and you make up. But with young girls, it's
social ostracization, which is a far bigger killer.
Yeah,
because that mental warfare is actually what makes people depressed and
it's so
suicidal.
It's so psychological, and I'm still shocked when I hear these stories. I'm like, wow, that's actually even worse than I thought, because that wasn't my experience. And it just happens basically to girls across the board. It's quite standard, actually.
I don't know if you guys have kids yet. Do you?
Yeah, I have 2.
Do you have any girls?
Yeah, I have a 5 and a 2-year-old. No, they're both boys, but they're both Hellraisers.
Well, at least you'll hopefully dodge that.
I was just going to say, like, the teenage, the 11 to 16-year-old years are brutal for girls.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're lucky, you get to dodge that. Maybe not you. Yes, we'll find out.
Well, Hannah, you had a leading role in the film as Emma, so which do you prefer, acting or directing?
I'm not sure yet. We were having that conversation yesterday. But I think because I came from an acting background, like I went to the sort of major repertoire theatre school in Australia called NIDA, where like Hugo Weaving, Kate Blanchett and Mel Gibson went, Toni Collette. It's like the Juilliard of Australia. So that was my background. And then I came over to LA and met Kane, and out of the frustration of not being cast and not being picked in that huge sea of actors in LA, Kane and I made our first film together because I was like, we both need to make something. We can't just sit around and twiddle our thumbs and wait to be chosen. And after we made For Now, I was like, oh, wow, there's so much you can gain from being the storyteller. And it's a different kind of high, I guess. And
no, I see what you did there.
Yeah. And I think I prefer that. Like, I do think I prefer the being behind the camera. It's also just like being on camera is really, like, as you get older as a woman, it's really hard. It's like vicious.
Well,
do you feel pressure being filmed by Kane?
Huh?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Kane. I'm sorry. I was trying to ask, do you feel pressure being filmed by your partner while you act when Kane's filming you while you're, doing the scene? Is there pressure, or is that awkward for you?
No. Well, we've acted together before, and yeah. I mean, it's like a little embarrassing taking direction, but not really. Like, I just trust him and like value him as an artist so much that it's easy.
This isn't really quite the same thing because Hannah wasn't in front of the camera, but and without spoiling anything about the film for people who haven't seen it, but let's just say there's a moment. It's pretty hard. Okay, spoilers. If you haven't seen it, skip forward 30 seconds. But there is definitely a moment when Hannah's character, let's say we were shooting a prosthetic of Hannah's face, and Hannah and I kind of had to stand there behind the monitor and just watch as her head was pulverized. And I just remembered kind of because it's a long take, right? Like the makeup guy is kind of standing off camera and he knows the hit points where to hit the head because he made it. And so it's just like a long take, like we're just standing there for minutes while this guy is just going crack, crack, crack. And it's just one long take from beginning to basically the head being completely demolished. And I'm just standing there and we're watching it. And I just reached for Hannah's hand and I just squeezed her hand because there was something really messed up.
Like, he was having a hard time, but I'm a masochist, so I was loving it. Like, my existentialism was like on fire, being like, yes,
yeah. And
I'm watching myself die.
I just didn't expect to have that reaction. Like it's fake, and yet it still churned my stomach a little bit.
But I was having it was like a sadist dream, It's wonderful.
Yeah, so that's a bit different because it wasn't Hannah acting in front of camera. It was a mold of Hannah's face, but I'll always remember that as kind of like the weirdest experience of working with Hannah in some way. And
I'll always love acting, and I'll always want to act, but I just don't want to do that endless slog of
like the audition track.
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah. I'd rather write myself roles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Kane, you had mentioned earlier that you like to act and stuff. Do you have any desire to act on film? Are you going to be in one of you and Hannah's next movies?
I hope
Are you
so,
going to write a role for yourself, or do you intend to stay behind the camera the whole time?
He's a great actor.
I mean, I've really only done. I mean, I acted in our last film, but that's because we all just we all just acted in it because we had no money to make it. But I liked it. I do like it. I acted in a lot of my friends' short films at film school, but I haven't really done it professionally. And so it's one of those things where I'm always telling friends and things, hey, I'm available, because it's fun. It's fun as a director to go on someone else's set and kind of have no responsibility except your part. Like just say your lines, and that's all you have to focus on. And I got a lot of respect for actors, so like that. I think working with actors is my favorite part of the process. I think watching fantastic acting happening in many ways is like the greatest magic to me of all of filmmaking. So I really have a lot of respect for what they do, and I never assume to think that I can just step in with no background and just do it. But it does happen. Look at someone like Jay Duplass, who like was never really an actor, and then in his 40s started acting. So
he's so good.
So I'll see things like that in the back of my mind. I'm like, I wonder if I can do that one day.
We've got to write Kane more roles.
That's basically what it comes down to. We couldn't shoehorn me into Sissy. There was no real opportunity there to do that. But we'll always keep an eye out for little things that I can do. It's just funny. It's just
awesome.
fun.
We hope to see you. We hope to see you on screen.
When I
how hard was it? This question's for both of you.
Sorry. I want to be directed by her this time.
There you go.
Yeah.
We'd love to see that. You be the star.
Exactly.
You be the star. She acts. Yeah.
It's time for a role reversal. Yeah. Let's mix it up a bit.
So I have a question for the both of you, though. This movie is technically like a dark comedy, like it's a horror comedy, but it's like it's on the nose. It's fucking perfect. And I wanted to know, how hard was it to make a movie that's this dark? Because it does get really fucking dark. So how hard was it to balance that with like a sense of humor? Because that's definitely a delicate balance. Did you guys struggle writing that?
Didn't struggle writing it. Loved writing it. That was the goal. The fear was, how do we achieve that in the edit?
Right.
Because we shot this film in 21 days in the middle of COVID with 11 days pre-production. It was so hard. I know that films have been made in less time, but the lack of pre-production really like boned us during production. But we got all the pieces together and we worked with our brilliant editor, Margie Hoy. And I think it's nice that you say that in some way we've pulled the intention off, because we were like looking at the pieces at the beginning of the edit being like, oh my God, how do we reflect what we tried to achieve in the script?
Yeah. Because we were pretty threadbare on coverage. Like a lot of the film was kind of essentially kind of edited in camera, meaning like we just shot the connecting pieces we needed as opposed to kind of covering a scene from all different angles because we didn't have time. And there's a lot of merit to working that way, but it's risky because you kind of don't have a lot to fall back on if you get into the edit room and you see it didn't work.
Aisha's performance, I think, was the thing that solidified.
It was the glue.
It really was the glue, and we're just really lucky that we had her because she's such a professional and she's also really funny.
Yeah.
And she was able to, in her performance, maintain that sort of grounded inner truth of her character losing her mind and becoming increasingly unhinged, but also like how that losing her mind became a fairy tale for her. Like that's a really hard thing to pull off.
Like she still is likable even as she's doing these things. And
her empowering herself was this really fucked up thing for all the other characters in the movie, but this sort of like emancipation story.
Yeah. Like she's stepping into who she's supposed to be, whether it's a good thing for society or not. It's her, it's her core self.
Like Aisha brought the glitter internally that we then transposed in the edit onto the film and onto the picture, which was such a relief.
our editor, Margie Hoy, who's a really dear friend of ours, she also kind of was looking at a lot of that in the rushes and editing it and going and kind of adding a lot of glitter in little cheap kind of After Effect things that she'd slap on and she'd show us when we'd come in the morning, and we would just be like, wow, like can we do that? Can
Like
we,
the paper moon that just pops on the screen.
Can we just have a moon pop on screen, or can we just have a wall of glitter outside the house? Like, where's that? And so, you know, she kind of really started to feel like the movie needed to be a time capsule in and of itself of Cecilia's own delusion, and kind of like she's stuck at the moment when the trauma happened when she was 12 years old. And so it needs to feel almost like a 12-year-old's kind of fever dream in some way. And so she added a lot of that. Like, a lot of it was in the script, but then she added more in the edit. And so it was just a group effort, I think, of understanding what we were going for, and that it was this bizarre tone that kind of sits in the middle, like you said, of kind of comedy and horror. And so, you know, we didn't know if we were going to pull it off, but I think when your editor and your cinematographer, Steve Arnold, who was amazing, you know, he's such a kind of veteran. He'll laugh at me saying this, but he's such a veteran of the Australian industry. We all just got what we were doing, and that goes for Aisha as well. You know, like
and also our production designer and our costume, Renata
and Mike, and it was just a group effort, as all films are. But I think, you know, when you're trying to pull off something that tonally there might not be a lot of references for outside of something like, you know, The Loved Ones, and there's been obviously great horror comedies like Evil Dead 2 and stuff.
Get Out.
Yeah, but like not necessarily in this way either. And so it was hard to kind of say we're doing this and point in one direction. It just came from a lot of talking and a lot of, you know, reference images and a lot of different movies mashed together. And
also, what's hard is when you get to that edit stage, taking your writing hat off still. Like, you think you've done that when you've hit production and you're the director, but you've got to do it again. You've got to be really honest with yourself and what you have when you get to the edit.
Yeah.
And go, no, it's not the script anymore. It's really not. Like, we have to deal with what we have now and create a new puzzle. Yeah.
Yeah, the weird one.
With editing, do you find it hard to edit your own films?
I love it. It's my favorite part. I love it so much. It's the best part of directing for me.
Yeah, no, I love editing. You know, I come from an editing background. It was nice to work with an editor on this one, though. It just offers you another voice in the room and another kind of set of ideas. But yeah, I'm all for kind of chopping. Like, I remember learning quite early on in film school. I was shooting this short film, and in the writing process, like, there was this one scene that I just kept rewriting. Like, the rest of the script kind of was good and locked, and there was this one scene that my teacher just kept being like, it's not working. I probably rewrote that scene like 20 times. And then we shot the film, and when we got in the editing room and my teacher took one look at it, the very first note on the first cut was like, that scene's got to go. It's got to be cut. And I was like, but that's the scene I put all the work into. And he said, yeah, but I mean, there's the scene you shot on the page and there's what I'm looking at. And it doesn't mean you failed or you didn't shoot it well. It just means, like, now that it's in moving pictures, it doesn't work. Like, you don't need it, or, you know, and so that really lodged in my brain from a young age there. Like, right, that's the difference. Like, as soon as you get into the editing room,
you have to become a murdering slasher. You have to, you know.
You got to become the Michael Myers of your own film and just cut the shit out of it.
Yeah,
you know?
You've got to put on the screen mask and just go for it.
Yeah, and really be brutal, like, not have any connection to, oh, but, you know, that scene took us so long, because only you know that. The audience doesn't know that, and they don't give a shit. All they're going to see is the finished product. So,
and that's why producers are, like, wary of writer-directors, I think.
And usually why they don't let them edit their own film as well. So, because I remember we, like, wanted to cut this one early on, and our producers were like, no, you're working with an editor. And in hindsight, we're actually really grateful that we did, because Margie was amazing. But, you know, it just goes to show that there is the film you write, there is the film you shoot, and there's the film you edit, and they're kind of three separate movies.
Yeah, and you have to contend with your ego to actually get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up how much you both really like editing. I would say that's one thing that's really surprised me from doing the podcast and talking to directors. And everything is how much people really enjoy editing, and really I feel like we've learned that that's really where the film itself is really made.
Yeah, it's where the magic happens, honestly.
You don't have to manage people when you're editing. You just have to manage yourself. I think that's a huge component.
Yeah, like a lot of the shoot, there's so many things going on, and you're talking to 50 people at one time, and you're negotiating personalities and egos sometimes and all this stuff. But in the editing room, it's just you and your editor, and it's just like a sacred space, and like anything goes.
It's like painting, right? Like it's just
more intimate.
Yeah.
It's more intimate. It's more revealing,
and there's the relief of being like, oh, look at all the things I fucked up during the shoot, but now this is what I have to work with. Yeah. Okay, let's go. Like it's really exciting.
Like stop complaining about what you didn't get done the way you wanted to, and actually just work with what you have. And make the best of it. And no one ever will know in our heads what the movie was, and I guess it's pretty close, but like, there were moments there in the edit when we just thought we didn't have our movie, and those early cuts are always the most brutal thing because and I hear about this from directors that have made like 50 movies, they still sit there and they watch the first cut and they just want to shoot themselves.
But there's that masochism as well. It's like you become addicted to that feeling of like the torment. It's like a cathartic process.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just chiseling and just wearing the thing down until really only what remains is what you need and everything else has to go.
And hopefully you've done right by your investors and hopefully you make money back, and you have to live with the uncertainty of that for like another year as you move through post-production, and then it comes out to the world and you've got to like deal with how everybody's responding to it, and it's just insanity.
Yeah. Yeah, so the edit in that sense is kind of like the last pure stage of filmmaking before you have to deal with what people think and all that crap.
Yeah. You let the roll in.
And I feel like Sissy, a lot of the audience gets their feelings from Cecilia from those extreme close-ups, and she just has like a great range of different emotions. Was it hard to find somebody that could like do all those emotions?
I mean, yeah, well...
We kind of chose Aisha really quickly because I was a fan of hers on The Bold Type. I don't know if you know that show, but it was like huge in Australia.
It's an American show, but
it was
big in Australia.
Canadian production, like one of those sort of glossy next generation Sex and the City style shows for millennials and Gen Z. And Aisha's range as an actor was just so intoxicating as a viewer. Like everybody, like she's got such a huge fan base because she's so deeply likable. And she was attracted to Sissy because she was like, I identify strongly with Cecilia. And when she said that, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm Cecilia too. Like we all are to some extent. And that entry point was so powerful. She gave it this new life. So
she was pretty adamantly like, no, I really am Cecilia. Like, I don't know how to tell you guys this. Like, I read this and I fell in love with this. Like, she is my homegirl. Like, I love this person. I don't judge her. I don't think of her as, a quote unquote villain or anything. I think it's her emancipation story.
She's the hero.
I think she's the hero of the story, and everyone else just needs to fuck off and leave her alone. And so as soon as she said that to us in the very first talk that we had, it's kind of like you don't even really need to, audition or go through the process of seeing how she delivers lines or what emotion you trust the person based on, their connection to the role. And we didn't know what we were going to get at that point. Like we didn't know that on set when we had a close up, like you're saying like that, like how her emotions would reveal themselves on her face. That's just, you put your trust in the actor and the person first. And you just decide to do this together and that you'll just figure it out. And then obviously when we got to the set and we just saw that she was nailing it take after take, then suddenly there's a lot of relief and you go, okay, she's got this, and our direction needs to just be really simple, like a little faster, a little slower, come in left instead of right. Like you never really had to tell her about who she is.
No, we just had to get out of her way and we just had
to get out of her way and let her cook, because she's just that kind of actor.
Yeah.
And she was doing it in like one or two takes, we were moving on. So
she's like a jazz drummer. Aisha. That's what she is.
Yeah.
Like as an actor.
And, you know, she's like all in her head while she's acting, and she's like, I don't know if I'm doing a good job. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm probably ruining this whole thing. But you just reassure and go, it's great. Let's move on. Like, we've got it. And so she's able to separate then when she watches it back, when she watches the film, she's actually able to separate herself from doing it. And
it's been really fun watching how people have received her performance over the past year, like throughout 2022. It's just wonderful that we got to see Aisha absorb that to some extent.
Because it was something that was not like, she was stepping out on the ledge a little bit.
And she carried that whole film.
Yeah, and she knew that. She was like, I'm coming to work on this little independent film in Australia. I've been working on a mainstream show for 5-6 years or whatever, where I'm in the flow. I show up to work every day. There's no risk. Like the show's got a series order, you know, it's on. And she's like, what if I come to Australia and work with these filmmakers and I fuck up their film because like the film is named after my character. I'm in every scene.
She's the lead. It was her first lead role.
She really felt that pressure, you know. There's not a lot of lead roles with African Australian women either. And she felt a real sense of responsibility, you know, and I just think it meant a lot to her. And so she put a lot on the line, and I'm just really proud of how she delivered.
And she got nominated for an actor recently, which is like the highest accolade in Australia. So, you know, that's really special. We're just like happy for that to have happened.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. And so I've stated several times on this podcast that one of the things that I dislike about the majority of movies that I watch in every genre is that you can tell that the female dialogue was written by a guy. And my mom and sister raised me, so I'm in tune to how women really act and talk. And the lines in Sissy, like the dialogue is so natural, like it just really seemed like a chick flick. So I wanted to know, Hannah, did you write the dialogue because, you know, you're the female of the group, or is Kane just that good?
Kane is just that.
No. Literally the one dialogue scene I wrote got cut out. So.
No, the dialogue scene that Kane wrote is my favourite scene of the whole movie.
It just didn't make sense in the movie.
But
didn't make sense.
Yeah, Constable Martindale. That's my favourite scene of the whole film. But
which is a male. I wrote the male role, but you did write the female roles.
But therein lies the favourite comedic moment. Anyways, we're just going to blow smoke up each other's asses now. But
you wrote most of that dialogue. She wrote most of that dialogue. She's not going to take credit for it, but she did.
I appreciate you saying that because I just every time I watch it and hear it, I'm just like cringe. That's not how people speak. You know, and like achieving this sort of tone of a real friendship group, but then the farce of them being in this scenario was a difficult assignment, I think.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
But yeah,
getting the audience to believe that she would like run into her old best friend and then get invited to a hen's weekend away, and then they all lose each other in this landscape. And
but that's just horror tropes, right? Yeah. You know, like that's plot mechanics. But when you got characters around a dinner table talking, you know, that pure dialogue, I think, is something that Hannah really excels at, and she enjoys it. You know. Thanks, man. Yeah. I love how I have to answer your question for you because you start talking about script structure to avoid the point.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, where did the idea to include the show Paradise Lost come from? Because that was one of the things that just made me laugh so much.
Yeah, like me watching one season of Love Island in Australia gave birth to that. My dream is to make a whole show, like a series based on that show and like the Bravo empire. I shouldn't say this out loud because then someone else will do it. But I think that the psychological warfare of American reality TV is delightful. And yeah, that's where that all came from. Like I am a part of Bachelor Nation. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's pretty fun. That
really is a very distinctly Hannah thing too, because I would walk in the room and she's watching this, and my approach is always just like, why are you filling your head with this trash?
I'm like, this is Athenian, like Grecian, like Sophocles in the. It's like Gladiator, It's like modern Gladiator, but with like Christian romanticism.
It's definitely like you said this the other day. I think it's definitely like the modern version of the beauty pageant, right? Like
that too.
Whereas in the 80s and 90s, you had women standing up there saying "World Peace," like that's kind of now they're just trashy reality stars.
All the beauty pageants graduate into those shows, and that's how they generate followers and activity. And we all hate watch them because it's wonderful to hate watch beautiful people who say dumb things, and then they go through these like atrocious mental breakdowns. Some of them commit suicide because of what they've invited into their lives. Like it's tragedy and comedy all mixed in together in a wonderful, awful way.
So I have a question for the both of you. What was the hardest scene, in Sissy to film? What put the struggle on both of you the most?
That's a good question. I mean, there's ones that were harder technically. There's ones that were just harder to get right performance-wise.
There was a really tough day in the shoot where we had to cut a huge slasher sequence when Emma finds Tracy under the bed. We had to cut like 5 pages in half an hour, and we had to figure out how to segue all of that information into like one scene. And
it was supposed to be that when Emma finds Tracy and she knows that Cecilia did this, that she then walks out the room, leaves the room, and she creeps down the hall, and there's this little blood trail, and it stretched out the suspense, and we were going to build to a point when Cecilia would turn a corner and it'd be a jump scare.
Like make it truly creepy.
But suddenly we were just in a situation where like we didn't have time to leave that to shoot to light another part of the house. Like we had to somehow do it in that room, and we were just like. I remember we went to Aisha, who was hanging out in a room just waiting.
Playing the ukulele.
She was just chilling like on a ukulele waiting to be told that we're ready. And we just sat there and we closed the door and we were just like, look, Aisha, like we need to all put our heads together here because like that scene's going to get cut. We need to still have you arriving and scaring Emma and get on with the show with the two of you. But we might not be able to do this drawn out kind of suspense sequence anymore. And
which makes it less of a horror film because we kept trying to like insert those tropes wherever we could, like nodding to the horror canon, but another kill your darling.
Yeah, and like now Emma just sees the body and she turns around and Cecilia's right there in the doorway.
And it's more of a comedic scene than anything.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you don't really miss it if you don't know what it was going to be. But that was a bit of a dark night of the soul where we were like, we really didn't want to lose that, and that's just sometimes what happens. It's
we also had the other trope of like Emma going into the car and trying to drive away, and her getting knocked out by the boot door, like all of that stuff. But
that was a whole scene that got cut pretty early on.
Yeah.
I mean, there was also just like logistically, probably the most difficult scene was when the group are all down in the little watering hole. Because there was really nowhere to put the camera, and so we kind of had it on like a long kind of crane arm that was up on the embankment. And I mean that we didn't even have that location. Like we knew where that was. We were going to shoot in that part of the park somewhere.
But the water changed because there was rain, and
it wasn't until it rained a lot the night before that we showed up that morning, and that little watering hole had actually formed like overnight. And so suddenly it was like we had to just tell everyone we're changing the plan and we're shooting it in this part of the park, right here. And that just became a logistical nightmare, but it was worth it. And again, just one of those things where if you get a little bit of luck, you just write it, and we were able to put our heads together and figure out a way to get a camera down there, and our grips and our camera team were amazing. And, but that was just a nightmare. Like we were just all day in that kind of watering hole, and the embankment was so high up that like when I was trying to shout, like I had to like shout directions and no one could hear me. And it was just very.
As in the acting seat, we couldn't hear each other because of the sound.
It was just very frustrating.
So you overcompensate as a performer, and then that screws you up in the edit. And it was interesting from that acting perspective to see that transference of like you don't have to overcompensate just because the environment's loud.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's ADR, to cover up all the water that's rushing over everyone's lines in the background. But yeah, so there's logistical ones, and then there's just the ones that are like your darlings that kind of hurt.
The car was really difficult the whole time.
Yeah. There's lots of things. I don't think there was an easy day of shooting, to be honest.
No.
And it's funny because, as the audience, you see something like, the watering hole scene, and it doesn't come off that, oh man, that was like such a problem to
It
film.
seems so simple, right?
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, it's just people sitting there, just stick a camera on them, wide shot, done. It doesn't seem like that, but I think that's why they say don't shoot around water. I mean, this is nothing compared to like what Spielberg went through on Jaws when they were shooting out on the water, out on real boats.
I was going to say, like, that might be my favorite slasher, but I know it's not a slasher. But for me, it feels like one.
Kind of. I mean, if Alien's a slasher, then you're like,
I mean, it kind of fits.
Yeah.
I think I think that's my answer. It's Jaws.
There's got to be a subcategory where it's like creature slashes, right? Where it's like it's not humans doing it. It's aliens or animals.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the practical effects. How important was Scarecrow Studios to the process?
Larry and Troy and Lee, was it Lee?
Larry and Tristan and Julian.
Julian, oh gosh. Yeah.
Larry Van Dijnhoven, it's his company, and he's kind of the head guy, and it was huge. Like, we were just really hoping that he would say yes and want to work with us, because he did. I don't know if you guys saw Relic, which was an Australian horror film that came out.
Oh my god, I love that movie.
And like the prosthetics and the makeup in that movie are incredible, and he did that. And
Mortal Kombat.
He's done a lot of stuff that we liked. He worked on The Invisible Man. I think he worked on Upgrade. I don't think he did Babadook. No, that was before his time.
The Invisible Man. That's such a good movie.
Yeah, like the neck slash scene. He was explaining to us how he did that, and he was just one of those guys. Like when we sat with him and we were like, we really want to work with you, and blah 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 blah. He had just come off an experience where a lot of his VFX, a lot of the prosthetics got replaced by VFX, and he was just so happy to work with I think us, because we were just like fanboying over how we want to do everything practical, and he was just like, man, this is the antidote that I needed. So I think he really had a good time, and we just kind of cut him loose. And look, like, I mean, compared to other stuff he's done, it's pretty like small fry, because it was smaller scale, but he also had a lot less resources to work with than he does with, like, he's doing the new Mad Max, so like, he's just the guy in Australia. He's kind of like the Tom Savini.
And he loves it. Like, he's like a kid in a toy store. Like, he like, on that watering hole day, he's coming up to me and being like, Hannah, here are the 8 versions of the scars we can put on Alex's cheek. And to me, they look all the same. And he's like, which one?
Yeah.
I'm like, whichever you think, Larry. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah.
He loves it. He trained under Dick Smith. I think he got some experience through Dick Smith in the early days, the legendary Dick Smith who did The Exorcist and a whole bunch of stuff. But so he's just a student. He's just a student of his craft,
he loves it.
Like the way we are with directors and writers. He just looks up to other makeup artists.
Tristan, he, like, Fran's head, like, every single hair was woven through that head. Like, that sort of attention to detail and craftsmanship, even though you've got one shot.
Yeah. and then we just get to ruin it all in like one take, and these guys have been working on it for weeks. So that's just part of it. And they're the keenest guys, like, huddling around the camera,
and they're just lovely.
Yeah. They were probably, honestly, Scarecrow Studios were some of the coolest people that we worked with, for sure. So big shout out to those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like practical effects have kind of come back around, where they kind of went out, everything went CG, and now there's people who grew up watching the practical effects that appreciate it, and we're like, no, I want these back in the movies, I want to do it practical.
Yeah.
So my number one favorite movie of all time is Death Becomes Her by Robert Zemeckis. And the practical effects
Okay, yeah, I like that
in
movie.
that movie, I think, are like primo, and that's where we want to be. Like,
Yeah.
we just want to try and make it as un-CGI as possible,
Yeah.
which is hard to do on a tight budget.
But I think it's true what you said. It's like, as you know, all the kids of the 80s and 90s are becoming filmmakers in their own right. And there's just an appreciation for the way that movies were made when we were kids, you know. We obviously, like the older directors from back in the day, like say someone like George Lucas or James Cameron, like they had to do all that in their early stuff, but then they got to play with more resources and they start to pioneer CGI, and then that takes off its own kind of course, and you know the pendulum always swings a bit too hard, and then everyone just goes full gaga for CGI, and now it's like you said, it's coming back around, and I just think that's a really cool thing. You know, like look at what Brandon Cronenberg did in Possessor. I mean, I just think that's just like some of the greatest prosthetic work I've seen in the last like 10 plus years.
The flesh.
For sure.
Yeah, just the flesh. Well, I mean, look, he's a Cronenberg, right? It's to be expected, but he could have gone the other way, you know, but he's obviously grown up with a real appreciation for that stuff. So,
and it's tactile. Like we do, I think our eyeballs, there's something in our brains that appreciates that more.
Yeah. Like I would say the things we like the least about our own film are the things that through budget reasons or whatever we had to do in CGI, and it just kills us because like we didn't really want any CGI, but there are moments that were enhanced by CGI, like a lot of cleanup, a lot of like stitching up of things where you don't see the prosthetic lines and stuff. Like that's a great use of it. But like if it was up to me, I would replace all the CGI in our film with practical effects.
Like the CGI in Dune is really good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's true. If you've got the real budget to do it, you know, we had one VFX guy essentially who hand painted a lot of the stuff by himself. So like we just didn't have the resources that you might have on a film like that to just keep doing multiple passes of it. But you know, it serves its purpose, and I think a lot of the better moments of the film are enhanced by CGI for sure, or VFX. It's just, you know, there's nothing better, like you said, there's nothing better than seeing something that's tactile, and
like
even if it looks a bit fake, it still feels more real than something that the brain can see is completely not real.
Yeah.
And digitally created.
Yeah.
You know,
the puppetry as well, like the Terminator. Where you see, what was like the other one?
Stop motion
with Arnie, where they like transverse dreams.
Total Recall.
Yeah. When you see the puppet, like the full animatronic thing, getting up and like melting, and it's so fun.
I just watched Total Recall like a couple weeks ago, and I still love that.
It's incredible.
So fun.
Incredible. I mean, it's probably one of Arnie's, I don't know, top 2 roles, maybe.
Such big ideas in the 80s that are being played with, you know, and such so much investment and risk from studios and independent filmmakers they just tackle all this like sci-fi.
Well, it was also an era, I think, where you could be a big studio film but still kind of have a lot of, you know, quote unquote kind of auteurship, and that's kind of changed now. Like now,
the era of IP.
Yeah, like now the director is brought in on those big films and has to kind of fit a mold, you know, which is unfortunate. But like, you know, there's also been the boom of television where a lot of that more kind of independent-minded thinking is able to go on inside of bigger budgets in that space on TV. But hopefully that comes back around, you know. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, honestly. But
getting back to Sissy here, how much of Cecilia is really sincerely Cecilia versus her just put it on a mask as this influence?
That's a really good question.
I don't know if there's an answer.
We don't know that answer, because her psychopathy is so tied up in this persona. Like, does Cecilia actually know who she is?
But also, like, we're already seeing online, there's people that you know, that really stand up for her, like what we were saying about Aisha, and there's people that, you know, think she's crazy. So it's kind of like, we don't want to tell anyone how they should feel about her, because I think it's up to the viewer, you know. you always bring your own background and your own kind of life history into whether or not you gravitate to a character. And, we're kind of asking the audience essentially to get down with someone who is essentially the slasher character in most other films. So it's not an easy ask, but I think, is she sincere? I mean, that's all woven into her, I don't know, like you said, her headspace. Like, if we say she's sincere or she's insincere, then it might completely kind of color how you view her as a character.
I think we all have these idealized versions of ourselves. And I think we're all dangerously close to believing that that's who we are. So, yeah, I don't think that any of us have objective truth about our own sincerity or our intentions or... Yeah.
And a really random reference in the movie that I want to bring up, Crossroads. Was that a big film for either of you growing up?
Yes. Absolutely. Zoe Saldana, Britney Spears. All of my friends and I watched that movie growing up and made time capsules and buried them, and we're going to run away from home when we were in our late teens right after prom and throw our wishes into the ocean. That was just, I want more films like that to be made where it's just unapologetically bad and cheesy and sparkly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely not one of my references.
Are you sure?
I mean, like,
what are you saying?
I had seen it. It's definitely another one of those things where I was just like, okay, wow, yeah, that's cool. Like, there is definitely an audience for that. Let's revisit that. If I'm making you watch, Friday the 13th Part 4, then I will watch Crossroads.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Fair enough. All right, so Kane and Hannah, will you possibly revisit the character of Sissy at some point and do a sequel, or do you think this is the last we see of her? Or is she going to dig up another childhood friend or past trauma where maybe we'll see her again?
Listen, we have a whole sequel.
Yeah.
We have a whole sequel mapped out. But
up to the powers that be, until we get a phone call saying that they're on board. It's all about kind of the producers and the companies that made the
people
film
who retain the rights.
Yeah, so there's definitely there's a story that we would love to tell. There's other films we want to make first. I think it's not something that is a priority. I would say, like, there's an original script that we're working on now that we're really excited about. There's a couple other things.
But Sissy was written with the intention of it being a trilogy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what use is it in making a slasher film if you don't have sequels, right?
Yeah, so. It's an origin story.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very much kind of probably lends itself to that. And yeah, there's stories that we know we want to tell, but we'll just have to wait and see if it happens.
Hopefully it grows a cult fandom and we can rely on the full force of the cult fandom to make what we want to make.
Yeah, so if you guys want to see Sissy 2, you have to go out and spread the word.
Well, we're trying to. That's hopefully this episode will do.
Thank you. Thank you for the support.
And I just thought of another reference from there and I wanted to bring up was the Midnight Cowboy reference from the Dennis Hoffman.
I love that.
Or Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, I'm walking here. Yeah, I love that.
I feel like too many people now just know the line, but have unfortunately never seen the film.
Yeah. Well, it's entered the lexicon. It's just one of those lines. It's like you had me at hello.
And we wanted to thank you both again for joining us today. And before we wrap up here, do you have any projects you guys are working on?
We do, but.
Besides Sissy 2?
Yeah, we're working on the next one right now, but we're not going to talk about it because we don't want to jinx it because we're superstitious artists. So, yeah.
And also, I think there's just something really cool about genre films, like as a viewer, when they just come out and you haven't heard anything about them and you're like, holy shit. this is great. Like, I didn't read too much about this. I didn't hear about it 2 years before it came out. And so I think it's important to try and play close to the chest with.
But we're definitely interested in leaning into the genre mashing space. So.
Yeah. It's going to be a little more of the horror satire, maybe some sci-fi elements. So let's wait and see.
I can understand being superstitious. I don't know if you both are familiar with the U.S. version of The Office, but I'm like Michael Scott. I'm not superstitious, but I am a little.
Yeah, yes. What you said.
We're a lot stitious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where can people keep up with you online for your projects?
We are both off of social media right now. Well, actually, you're still on a little bit, but
we're on Instagram, so we'll pop up every now and then to share bits of news, but it's not really a regular thing, especially now that the film's out. It comes out on DVD and online, I was going to say, in Australia on January 18, which is pretty soon. And then I think I forget the date, but sometime in March is when there's going to be the physical media release in the States.
But if you want to stalk us, we're at HBAR, HBAR, and Kane at Kane Senes, KANESENES on Instagram.
All right. Well, thank you again both for joining us today. We really enjoyed Sissy, and we enjoyed getting to talk to you guys about that and slasher films throughout the entire interview. That was awesome as well.
I'll have a better answer.
We love Sissy, and you guys were great guests.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, listening to us waffle on, and I promise I'll have my solidified answer the next time we speak to you.
Well, you said Jaws.
You're
You're just redefining. You're just redefining what the slasher means.
Yeah.
Be bold. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Take care.
All right. Take care. Thank you, guys.
Thanks to all the horror hounds and smokers out there for tuning in. Thanks again to Kane Senes and Hannah Barlow for joining us today. So we'll be back next week for you with a review of Megan, or as some are calling it, M3 Gan. So we'll be back with a review of that for you. Make sure to follow us online at High on Horror 420. Well, I was going to say Gmail, but that's the fucking email. But yeah, email's High on Horror 420 at gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at High on Horror 420. You can check out our website too, highonhorror.com. While you're there, you can sign up for the newsletter. Get episodes and shit all sent directly to your email.
And send us Puff Ask questions too.
Yeah, fuck it. Do it all. And while you're there, go ahead and read some reviews too. I actually got one up there. I learned how to write. I think that'll about wrap her up. Catch you later.
Bye, everybody.